Have you heard back, did you hear back after your portrayal from his family?
Well, we heard right away, pretty soon, that Bobby Jr., said that Ethel was very pleased with the movie. And then I had the great honor a couple years ago. Carrie Kennedy, one of Bobby's daughters, has done this fabulous. It's a book, and it's a traveling lecture, and it's a museum piece, and it's called "Speak Truth to Power" that she did. I can't remember the name of the photographer, but it's basically 50 human rights heroes, people you've never heard of, like Desmond Tutu, Nelson Mandela, or people you've heard of, and then people you've never heard of. And it's their stories and their pictures. And the playwright, Ariel Dorfman, fashioned it into a staged reading. And so I took part in one of these at Pasadena All Saints Church, and Carrie Kennedy was there speaking before and after. And they actually brought out some of the real people after we were done, and what a humbling experience. But I did meet Carrie, and I went up to her, and I finally said, I actually played your dad. And then she remembered. She went, "Oh, that's one of the ones we liked." So I was really, really honored. And just talking about, a legacy with a lot of the Kennedys, with Robert Jr. and Carrie and Caroline Kennedy. I mean, look at the people. Look at this dynasty and what a lot of these people have done, and then compare it with, say, the present-day dynasty. It's a big difference.
And we'll get to that in just a second, because I want to bring things into the present. Richard Nixon has also now been played by others. Did you watch Anthony Hopkins or Rip Torn or others who've played him and thought, I like this part of what he did, or, oh, he's doing that for me, or oh, I should have done that, or what's it like when you see someone else trying the same role?
No insult intended, but I have not seen those.
Oh, really? Okay. All right. Then
I know they're brilliant, but I have not seen them.
Laura.
I was just going to add, if I may, I'm so interested in this question of, the challenge that the three of us shared, which was comedians, portraying the very person that we're trying to do an authentic version of. And amongst the various things that the research gave me, it also gave me lots of Saturday Night Live skits and Mad TV and everything else. So many people did Catherine, and I want to, if I may, and I'm sure this is shared, pay tribute, since we are here talking about film, to the magnificent job the director offers an actor, and the bravery that it takes comes from the director's trust and the director's true gift at understanding the balance between comedy and authenticity. And I just feel so blessed that Jay was there, not only holding my hand, but pushing me toward the more extreme take and the subtler take that he could then take, and I trusted that I could give him that and know he'd know what was best for the film. Especially in satire, you need the gift of that vision sort of guiding you, and so I couldn't get luckier.
Mr. Roach.
Well, you're too kind, and I will say that we were off the mark when, I will just tip it back to you, because although the script had a few very good moments that sort of were meant to stand for the moments that she went through, Laura said, look, I know I'm going to sound like an actress looking for a little more here, a little more there, and I'm actually not. I'm actually not talking about screen time. I'm talking about, do you know who people talk about when you bring this topic up? It's almost always Catherine Harris. You guys might want to check out a couple of, opportunities, and we then went back and explored those very quiet, alone moments. The moment when there's a moment, if you've seen the film, there's a moment when she's alone in her office and looks out the window, and then has a near breakdown, and another really creepy moment when she's just about to go on stage to sign the certification for the President of the United States, and is gathering herself off stage as if she's stepping out, to do a Shakespearean play. And those came from a very smart actor saying, people want to understand this person. And it just completely opened us up. And we did then go and study the book and try to figure out the mythology. And it's very much a collaboration. And we were lucky to have Laura point those things to us.
When the
Back at
three
you.
of you, when you finish a role like this, is it, in a way, a burden completed? Is it a responsibility done? What's it like to the morning after you finish shooting? I'm getting up. I'm not having to go to her today. What's that like? Or for Nixon or for Bobby?
Well, I think my experience is a lot different from your guys. It was really hard to say goodbye, I have to say. You know, I really missed him when it was over.
And working on these
I'm
different...
sure you guys didn't.
But working on these different projects, I'd like to also then now maybe transition to, how did this affect how you, when you read the newspaper in the morning, when you watch CNN, do you feel differently about the world and about the democracy in which we live because of these projects on which you've worked? Anybody can go first. Philip? Or
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I mean, every day it seems more clear that Nixon and others, but Nixon, as our president in that period, did plant the seeds, these conservative seeds that I say that we are seeing grow bigger today. So every time, you know, something really wretched happens on the right, I mean, I sort of see Nixon's hand in that. I see Nixon's mind in that, and you know, if he's up there watching some of this stuff up until maybe the last couple of years, it probably had him laughing like a maniac. Probably really delighted to see these things grow the way they have. Some of these Supreme Court appointments, I'm sure, have really made him happy. Some of the stuff that
you are assuming he is in heaven?
Huh? Well, I didn't say that. I didn't make the assumption where he was. But I would say that maybe up until the last 18 months, he could look down and say, boy, I did a hell of a job, you know?
And following up on that, Jay, you were telling me earlier that you saw a documentary today that kind of is coming out of the Nixon legacy.
Well, and it kind of connects. I'll try to make it short because it opened up a whole awareness or a new emphasis and a new curiosity about the notion in our film. There's a contrast in philosophies between the tendency to want to fight like crazy, no holds barred, versus the sort of diplomatic negotiation. And in my own mind, I thought that Warren Christopher stood for something quite noble, and that he really did want to have an impartial process. He really did want to put country above party, and he thought, just from a practical standpoint, if they did fight that way, that if the election was overturned, it would never be legitimized anyway. So what's, you know, how to win that? There's another big argument that the film makes that, yeah, but look what happened for you not fighting like that. And the clash of idealism versus street fighting is a fascinating one. And there's a great documentary that I saw today about Lee Atwater. It's called The Boogeyman, or who has
You
the
might
real
want to
title?
explain who Lee Atwater...
Boogeyman, the Lee Atwater story, thank you. And it's an amazing exploration of the kind of history that leads up to this kind of political approach, which is a very aggressive, and you know, it goes back to certainly to Watergate and before, but the committee to re-elect the president with Haldeman and Donald Segretti, and there was a fascinating character in this documentary today, Roger Stone, who is kind of passed on through all of he was involved in Creep, he was involved with Atwater, they were in the same offices. He was involved in Florida secretively. Most people didn't realize that until our film came out, because he kind of came out and said, hey, I was involved in the Brooks Brothers mob too. And again, with much pride and competitive spirit with Brad Blakeman, who we credited as having a lot to do with that. And just the notion of, what I hope all the films we're talking about do, inspire people to look harder at what is gaming the system versus people who are fighting for whatever they believe, whichever side you're on. You know, being able to discern the strategies and decide for yourselves whether you're being manipulated or being inspired. And that, I think, is what I got out of, that's what made it important to me to make the film.